Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
Hello?
Yeah, it worked. You almost set, we almost set a new record for long it took to get a guest on the show.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Crazy. But here I am.
Exciting, and I'm so glad to have you here. And I hope you know that we are going to be joking about this the rest of the way.
Yes, I mean, it stuff happens.
Yeah, Rat.Ross says, I can hear her.
Yay!
How are you doing?
Good. Just hydrating from after my race. I ran a 100-miler on Saturday. I finished Grand Masters. It's a race where you have to be 50 years older to run it, and that was my 6th time I've run it. So
congratulations.
I know.
Yeah.
And I did a decent time. I was happy with it. So I kind of took it easy because I have a 100-miler in 2 weeks. So, and I was like, I want to do a lot faster there. So we'll see.
Which one do you have in 2 weeks?
So Flat Top Mesa, it's in the same area. So this race was in Littlefield, Arizona, which is on the border of Mesquite. So, and this one's actually in Mesquite on this big mesa. So we like start at the bottom of the mesa, and that's our one big, huge climb. And then we do like 8-mile loops. So, but it's really pretty because you can see like all around up there. So it's pretty cool. It's very rocky. I mean, on paper, even the Grand Masters, it looks, every time I run it, I'm like, why is it so hard? And this time it was they had a lot more climbing, but there's a lot of rocks. It's like super rocky, like very technical rocks, even though it's flat. It only had like 8,000 feet of climbing, but it's just very rocky.
Oh man, that one's Mesquite, Nevada, right? Because I did a race. My second 100 I did was Valley of Fire 100, and it was like not a lot of elevation gain, but it was the same thing.
Rocky.
It was so rocky.
Yeah, and that slows you down because as you get tired, you start stumbling. It's like I don't necessarily need poles at that race, but I'm like, I'm glad I brought them. I'm like, I didn't use them for the first 50 miles, but I'm like, I am stumbling like around, as soon as it started getting dark. And I'm like, I caught myself so many times from falling, like when you go to fall and you hyperextend your leg. So like my glute, I thought I was going to rip my left glute out. I was like, oh my God, no. So I did that like 2 times. And towards the end, I was just like, I don't give a shit. I'm like, whatever. I'm just shuffling. I'm going to do my 200-mile shuffle and I'll get there.
Love it. And that is actually having ultra shuffle and the 200
I know.
mile shuffle.
I'm glad I have it because I can power pretty fast.
Yeah, I saw you pull out that shuffle. Because we did ATY.
I know. Even at ATY, I do my 200-mile shuffle and it keeps me going.
Yeah, I think you sort of just like turned that shuffle on and just kept going on that last day or that 5th day or whatever.
Well, you know what happened to me? So I was in 2nd place and I went to the hotel and I was going to sleep because I had to leave that morning. So the race ended at 9 and I always like to try to sleep so I can drive right back to Bishop after. And that's like a long drive. I think it's like a 6.5 or 7-hour drive from there. And I was like, okay, I'll go sleep in a hotel for 5 hours so I can get a solid sleep. And then I'll be golden to drive home. Well, I thought I set my alarm. And so Anthony Culpepper was out there and he had texted me. He goes, when you come around, he goes, at 7 o'clock, wake me up. And I jumped up out of the bed and I was like, oh, what time is it? It was like 6 o'clock and I meant to be already back there by 5:30. And I was like, oh shit. So I had like got all my stuff together and it wasn't, it was still like a 15-minute drive to get back from the hotel I was at. So yeah. And then that other woman got into 2nd place. I was like, and she was like rubbing it in and she's like, are you going back out? And I'm like, yes. And I'm not like usually competitive, but I was like so pissed. I'm like, the only reason you got ahead of me is because I overslept. So she, finished with like 4 miles ahead of me. But I was kind of bummed. I'm like, you idiot. But it was my fault. So good for her, So, but I was happy with my mileage. So
that reminds me of my coach saying when he did the 24-hour race, he I think he went to sleep at night, and he just woke up like 5 minutes before the race was over, and he was like, "Guess
Oh my God. That's the worst feeling though. Like when I woke up, I was rattled. I was like, oh no, no, no. And if he didn't text me, I probably wouldn't have woke up.
Yeah, glad you got back out
I
there
know, I was.
because
I was like, I want to get some more miles. So I just like powered through.
and you also got your lifetime jacket,
Yes, I
right?
did. I got my 1,000-mile jacket. So I was excited about that. And that was like my main goal. I'm like, I got to do a certain amount of miles to get my jacket. So, you know, but I want to try, I'm going to push for closer to 400 next year and see what I can do. At least 333 because that's like my number. But I would like, we'll see, you know.
Uh,
No, no, like going off to the hotel and sleeping. I'm going to rent an RV again. So that's the key because I did that the time before. And it's just nice because then you can just, see where other people are and then take your break. Like I knew when I ran at that time, like, okay, this woman will catch me if I sleep this much time. So I can't sleep that much time. I only have this much time. So it's like I'm always on my phone. Like I'm like, okay, I'm going to put my recovery pump boots on for an hour. I'm 2 hours ahead. I'm okay.
you know, speaking about ATY, I've seen some familiar faces in this chat. There's Mia Detmer who got second place.
Oh yeah, the last person standing. That's amazing. She was amazing.
I just saw Ashley Paulson just stop in too. Hey, Ashley.
Ashley, I love her, and congratulations on her killer 100-mile national championship, whatever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Talk a bit more about that and dive into this chat. I just wanted to welcome everybody to the Run, Try, Bike Fireside chats.
Hi, everybody.
So we are on episode 94 now, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
Hey, look, girl.
Ashley!
She was, before I continue with that, I just want to say she was amazing, doing 100 miles and had absolutely no reason to be cheering anybody on because she was in her zone, but she was like, good job, you're doing great, amazing. She is every bit the
That's
energy.
what I love about her. She has the energy, and she brought me all these ketone IQ drinks, those shots that she used. Oh my God, I swear by them. So across the years, she got me hooked on them, and I use them there every 4 to 5 hours, and I used them at my race last weekend every 4 to 5 hours. So I PR'd my time on that course, and I was like, I love those things.
Love.
And I saw Candace jumped in. Hi, Candace. She's in Korea or somewhere.
I checked. She was in South Korea.
Yeah, running up some steps.
Yeah. It's thanks, guys. That's what it's all about.
Spread love. Yep. Oh, we got Brazil.
Rat.nos is asking what are they again, but before we answer that question, I want everybody know in the chat that we're doing this as a live conversation because if anybody has any questions for Catra, they can ask them in the chat and I'll be happy to hand them over to her. There's also a question mark button on the bottom right. You can also put it in the chat and I'll make sure to get those questions over to her. So rat.nos, really cool name, was asking what ketones are again.
So I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, I mean, I know what ketosis is and all of that, but the whole science behind it, if they go on the website, they can read. Ashley told me to use them every 5 hours, and so I started using them. And they're vegan, so.
Love it.
But if they go to the Ketone IQ, like Google that, and it will come up and it explains it more. I got a little brochure when I ordered them this time, and so I need to read up on them. But my main concern is, are they vegan? So they have a little bitter taste, but it didn't bother me. So some people really go on about the taste of them. So, but just Google that and you can read up on them.
Definitely. So before we dive into questions, I have to always ask the icebreaker question. It's food related, and I always have to ask this to determine. Well, Jason can't be here, so there's no team on. We're getting it anyways, but are you ready for the icebreaker?
Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Yes, yay. On gluten vegan pizza.
There we go. Yeah, I agree with that. I am Los Angeles born and raised in West Coast, so I love pineapple on pizza. Jason is a New Yorker, so he can't stand it.
Oh
And
no, I love pineapple. That on a pizza, it's so good. Spinach and pineapple on it with vegan cheese.
ooh, that sounds really good. What kind of vegan cheese?
Daya. I like their cheese, their
I
vegan cheese.
like that too. Oh, see their fitness addiction planner saying, "Yay pineapple." Nancy has always been in my corner. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is one of the things you've done is you were in the 100 miles club.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing feat. What drives you to keep taking on those extreme physical challenges?
You're only here once, it's like I feel blessed, and I always tell people this, like, I'm not gonna be able to do this forever. I'm 59 and I'm going with the flow as long as I can. I feel great. It's like tomorrow I may get injured. You just don't know. It's like things happen, to people all the time. And so I just want to keep getting out there and inspiring other women, especially women in their 50s now. They go like, God, you're still out there. I've seen people come and go into this sport, when I started running hundreds in 99, and people will leave like for 15, 20 years, whatever, go have a family and do stuff. And they come back into our sport and they're like, you are still going. Like, we can't believe that you haven't gotten injured or, anything like that. But I just feel blessed, and that is my main reason. It's like, I know I'm not going to be able to do this forever, and why I have this body that allows me to do this, I'm going to keep going with it, And I love being outside. It's, I love being in the wilderness. I love getting out and adventuring, and running in all conditions. If it's raining out, if it's snowing, I'm looking at snow in the mountains right now. It's like, it doesn't matter. I just enjoy that whole journey of being out there, and it keeps me sober, and it's helped me maintain my sobriety for 29 years, going on 30 years. So
that's incredible.
Thank you.
April will be 3 years of sobriety for me. So
good for you. Congratulations.
So
Life is
much,
so
and
much better.
it does get so much better. It's definitely a process. It's definitely a lifestyle.
Sure.
I think that there are a lot of small battles that you have to win
all the time. Yeah, I agree with you.
But you've definitely been an inspiration for me in doing that.
Thank you.
Because I picked up your book, Reborn on the Run, maybe like when I was just getting into the sport 3 years ago. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
So one of the things that you do is, like, one of the things I've noticed you also do is you do a lot of solo 100s and 200s. Like, you just get out your door, whether it's with your amazing dogs. And I just want to know, like, has that always been a thing for you since you started in 99, or did the solo adventuring?
Yes. So actually in 2000, was it 2000, 2001, I decided the Ohlone Wilderness Trail, where I used to live in the Bay Area, there's a 50K race on that trail that goes from Fremont up over Mission Peak and on the Ohlone Wilderness all the way to Del Val. And I decided at some point that I was going to run 100 miles out there. And so I got like my friends together and decided, I'm going to do this. So they kind of came out and helped crew me. So I went to do it as like a birthday run. I'm pretty sure it was in 2000. And the weather was so bad. Yeah, it was in 2000. The weather was horrendous. So it was in December. My birthday's Christmas Eve, and I always do these birthday runs before my birthday, because nobody's going to come out on Christmas Eve to help me do anything. So it was muddy. It was just like really bad. So we saw one of the park rangers at the turnaround in Sunol, and he goes, I don't suggest you guys keep going. And at the time, it was like the mud is like that clay mud. So it like took us like 8.5 hours to get to Del Val, which back then was considered slow for me. I'd be happy to get there in 8.5 hours now without any mud. But yeah, so we decided, and it got really cold. There was a cold front coming in, a frost, and it's never that cold usually in the Bay Area. And it got down in the 30s. So a friend of ours came to Sunol, so we ended up making it all the way back. Actually, we ended up making it back to Fremont. So some friends came to Sunol to meet us, and then we went all the way back to Fremont. It was super windy. So I made it like 100K. And then I'm like, there's no way. It was like, it would take hours. So I reset basically, and then decided in April of that year, I was going to do it again, attempt it, and I ended up doing it. So that was in 2001. So I attempted it the first time in 2001. It was just, something I dreamed up, and I hadn't been running that long, but it was like, I'm going to do 100 miles on the Ohlone Wilderness Trail. So, and that's how it is for me. Like my ex-husband, who was a rock climber, he used to always tell me, why don't you run from Fremont to Yosemite? You know, because he was always there, and I would drive there, and I'm like, yeah, I should, you know, and I thought about it for years. And then like when I was getting ready, I don't want to say was I getting ready to move from Fremont? No, not at that time. It was when I think I lived with Phil there for 2 years. So when we first got back from running across the United States, I was in road shape. So I'm like, I want to run to Yosemite on the road. So I ended up doing that. And then the following year, I had this book called The Muir Ramble Route that this couple wrote about the route that John Muir took when he hiked to Yosemite. So he went from San Francisco to Yosemite. And they made the route as close as they could, because obviously there's highways there now, and you can't, you know, there was none of that there when he did it. But they wrote this guidebook. So I had it for years, and I'm like getting ready to move to Bishop, and I'm like, this is the time to do it. So I got my friend Jay, Lee, and Dave, and my boyfriend Phil, and they crewed me, and I ran from San Francisco. So he started basically and I talk a lot. I talk fast, sorry. I started in San Francisco. So we went from Oakland, and we took the BART into San Francisco, because obviously he had to take a ferry to Oakland, because he didn't go across a bridge or anything. So we did it exactly how he did it. So we went to the ferry, and then me and my friends went on the ferry, and then I started in Oakland, where he got off and started his actual hike.
Oh my God. That's amazing. And
yeah, it was a fun adventure. It was crazy, because we had it on the side of the car, Muir Ramble Route, and we got to, I think 100 miles into it, past Morgan Hill, and these two women come up, and I was sitting in a chair, like regrouping and getting my aid, and, you know, getting ready to go again, and they're like, who's running the Muir Ramble Route, you know? And I go, they're like, she is. And I go, I am. And then the woman gets out, and she's like, my wife is hiking it. She started from Oakland, you know, we live in Oakland. And she's like, she's going to take like 3 months to do it. And they were stopping and camping out, like at different campgrounds, or going to hotels and stuff. So it was really cool to meet somebody else actually doing it. So
that is super cool. And Yosemite is like one of my favorite areas, and like my favorite national park, and it's just
mine too.
And I just love the Sierras.
Yeah.
I mean, especially past and going out there and running.
Yeah, and over here the energy is just, you feel like a certain energy out in the wilderness here, and it's just like so positive when you go out. If you're having a bad day, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go over Bishop Pass today, and you know, and then I meet tons of hikers on the JMT or the PCT, and it's like you can be having a tough time, and then you're like, wait, there's people, and you know, you start hearing their story about their journey, you know.
Oh, Mia actually says Catra and I met at Coldwater Rumble in 2015.
A long time ago.
And we got a question in the question box from Jessica920. She's asking, what are tips if you're a beginner runner?
Tips for a beginner runner. So if you're just getting into running, I suggest like the 5-minute run, 1-minute walk kind of thing to get into it. And that's kind of what I was using with my little dogs, you know, to get them into it. But, you know, doing that until you build up a little bit of endurance. So what people end up doing is they go out and they just run, and they run hard. And they're like, this isn't fun. And that's what I always did when I was younger. I hated running because they force you to do these fitness tests, and you have to run a mile really fast, and you feel awful. You know, there's no pacing involved. You're just going out really fast. So in order to build up that endurance and to have fun, I suggest just like going out for an hour, but doing like a 5-minute walk, a 1-minute run until you feel good. And just each week maybe add, you know, if you feel like, well, I could do 10 minutes, well, then bump it up to 10 minutes, and then maybe a 2-minute walk, and just work from there, you know. And nowadays you can bring music or a podcast, something to motivate you, maybe like listen to my book. That's a good one. You can get it on Audible. So a lot of people have told me they've listened to it and that's helped inspire them to do more. So yeah, just start with like a 5-minute walk, run, and a 1-minute walk routine, and work your way up. And as soon as you know it, you'll be doing ultra marathons.
Yeah, yeah, it's a slippery slope, guy. I
It
mean,
is. It is a very slippery slope. There was no social media when I started running. If there was, I probably would have went right to like 100-miler, but I didn't know. I ran for 3 months and ran my first, I ran a marathon. I ran like a 10K, and then I think I might have ran one other 10K and then right into a marathon, and then started running marathons and running trail marathons. And then I heard this chatter like ultra marathon. I'm like, what are they talking about? These people on these trail races that I was running. And they're like, oh, it's a 50K. And I go, well, how far is that? I didn't know. And they're like 31 miles. And I'm like, well, I'm running 26.2. Like, that's not that much further. And in your brain, if you've been running marathons, it isn't that much further. So that's kind of how I started into that. And when I did a couple of 50Ks and then a 50-miler, I was like, well, that's, there was, like I said, no social media. So we had Ultra Running Magazine, and it was black and white. And then the way you knew about races is so for that month, say January, they would have all the races coming for February, and they would have the registration in there. So you ripped out the page that was the registration, you filled it out, and you sent in a check. So that's how I knew what races, once I started doing my first trail race, I got a subscription to this Ultra Running Magazine. And then that's how I knew, like, oh, I want to run a 100-miler because, I'm not really an ultra runner unless I run 100 miles. And I don't know where I got, that was just in my brain. I was like, oh, I have to run a 100-miler to be an ultra runner. So I, after running a couple 50Ks and a 50-miler, I was like, when's the next one? When's the next 100 coming up? I got to run a 100-miler. And so Rocky Raccoon was my first one.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That Rocky Raccoon was your first 100-miler, and it just
Yeah, that was the one that was coming up.
And it's funny to me that you mentioned. I talked to another ultra runner, Dianthe, who started back in like 1993.
Yeah,
he was doing, gosh, like faxing entries and things like that, and so just you're like, for everybody, like, and me included, like, to hear things like, even growing up in that age but not being a runner in that age, to hear like ripping out the paper and like sending
a check. People are like, what is that? Like, people don't even know. That's how you did it. There was no, they had this ultra listserv that was an email listserv, so that was the only way you like interacted with other people. And that was like, I think that was around in 99, because I did remember getting advice on there, but it was mostly old men, and they were very like judgy. Like, it was the old guys club, and they didn't like new, younger. I mean, I was considered young when I started running hundreds at 33. I mean, now we have so much younger people, and not a lot of women, I think probably there was maybe 10 or 15 women, maybe 10 women at the start of Rocky Raccoon that year. Yeah, things weren't selling out. Like, Western states didn't even, I mean, when I applied my first time, I got right in. So I remember, like, oh no, there was a lottery, because I did go to the lottery. I think I ended up going to the lottery. Yeah. So they used to have a crank thing where they had all the names. Now they do it, at randomly picker thing, but they had like a little spinny thing, where they put the names in, like a bingo or something, and that's how they pull the names out.
They
God, I feel old.
They really should bring. That's Badwater 05. To your question, that's not my laundry room in the back. That's my closet. And he was also like, those damned old men.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I really wanted to ask you is, you have this, I've done loop races and I've done mountain races. You've done both, and you've done so many of both, and you've done solo races. Do you have a favorite type of environment? Do you have a favorite type of place? And what do you see as a distinction between the loop races like across the years and some of the mountain races that you've done?
Oh, they're not close. So the flatter races are harder. So my actual favorite race is Bigfoot 200. So I really, really love that race because it's very challenging, but yet there's just something about that weird energy when you're in that, like just the green forest the whole time. You know, you only pop out a few times to have these incredible views, but it's a really tough race, and that race has humbled me when I've run it. But there's something about that race that's my favorite race. You know, I just absolutely love that race. Yeah, but the HEY, so I look at my times and I'm like, why can't I don't run 200 miles faster. I run a mountain 200 miler faster than I can do at HEY. It just doesn't make sense. It's just that loop. Like some people are really good at like managing themselves on those looped courses. I get going, but then I get distracted, you know, a lot. Like I prefer being like out in the mountains and going, you know, it's like, oh, there's my table. Oh, should I stop and get something now? Oh, there's the aid station. You know, it's like I get distracted by stuff, you know, and it's like, then I start fooling around, you know, so, and it's all fun for me, but like next year I would really, like I said, I really want to try to push, and I probably need to train flat is probably something I need to do because I go into those not training flat, and then I get there and I was like, oh, you know, it's like you hurt, you know, after. So what does that say? Do you have any?
Yeah, Shannon Run says, I've been an ultra runner for 7 years and I'm struggling with my first major injury. Do you have any advice? And your book, Catra, very inspiring.
Thank you. So I'm not sure what kind of injury you have, but I'm assuming you've gone to the doctor and got it diagnosed, or is it just like a knee pain? I mean, I would go to physical therapy or something. I mean, mentally, I realize, oh, it's knee. There's all kinds of things you can use. So I don't know if you have a meniscus issue. I've had knee pain in the past. So I suggest like getting a TENS device, which are the little electronic stimulators, and they're not super expensive. The one I have is more on a higher end, like a $300 one, but you can get them at like Walgreens, Walmart, and the pharmacy, and they're little pads, electronic pads, and they stimulate the area. And I definitely believe they've helped because I actually had it on before we started on my knee because my left knee was hurting this morning because it was pouring rain. I decided I got a treadmill for Christmas that I was going to, because I'm a streaker, so I have to run every single day. And so I did my 5K on the treadmill, but I was like, my knee after when I went to the gym. So get a TENS device. Turmeric is really good for inflammation. You know, if walk more, you know, and definitely get it diagnosed so you know what's going on. If it's something that's serious, I've never had a serious injury. So luckily, knock on wood, I've never had like a serious running injury. And if you're not cross training in the gym, that could be part of the reason you got injured, because building the muscle around your joints and stuff definitely can help like protect them. So yeah, but if you been to a doctor, go to a chiropractor too. Chiropractors are great, you know. So that's
Do you,
the only advice I have. I mean, I've never had like serious injury other than, like I said, putting that TENS device definitely helps.
do you have,
So if it's,
that actually does to a question that I always ask anybody who's been doing the sport, not only as long as you have, but also has done, if I remember you mentioning 125,000 miles, you mentioned to me at ATY.
yeah, it's more than that. Now I have to add them up. I have my book in the car. I keep meaning to do that because I never posted my yearly mileage this year. Or last year, I did 5,000 miles, but I need to add them together to see exactly where I'm at. So over 125,000 lifetime miles. Yes.
So do you have any keys or methods or anything that and this can be mental, physical, spiritual, any keys that have helped you maintain your longevity in the sport? Because as we talked about, people come in and out, people fizzle out, they come back, they start at different ages, and you've kind of just stood the test of time Do you have any tips or any?
So a lot of the racing, like my dad passed away when I was 17. So when I got into the sport, he was a runner. He had actually run a marathon, and he died at 49 years old of a heart attack, a massive heart attack. He was fairly healthy, but back then, I mean, he ate meat and he smoked cigarettes, and so this is a long time ago. So when I when I got clean and sober, and then I decided to start running, I kind of had him with me. I used him as like my guardian angel and to get through things. So when I got really tough during that 100-miler, my first 100-miler, I just visualized him pacing me and helping me. And now the longer I run, the more people, of course, that are close to me in my life have passed away. So I use a lot of their energy, with me. It's like I use them when I'm struggling, because I'm like, I'm sure, like my friend Suzanne, who passed away of cancer, she wished she could still be alive and running too. It's like I use a lot of that, people that are having issues, and try to use that and run for them, run for people that can't run, because they're having issues. So I use a lot of that, and I just take them as my angels. Like my little dog Truman, this weekend, I brought some of his ashes with me, and there was a spot that I went by on the course 4 times, and I was like, okay, this time I'm putting his little ashes over here, and I have to come back each time, so it's forcing me to finish, because that's like my little spot, where Truman is. So just little mental things like that, and I also remind myself, because you get around people, and in 200s I've been around guys that are just like complaining, and I'm like, you paid money to do this, like, don't be negative. I go, and don't say it out loud to other people, like, it's going to get better, and snap out of it. So I try to remember when I am getting to that point, like, what am I doing out here? Why am I, and it gets that way for me sometimes. I stop myself and I tell myself and remind myself, you are lucky. You are lucky. You have the body that is allowing you to traverse all these mountain ranges or flat stuff and just go, for hours and hours and hours. So I just have to remember how blessed I am, and we all need to remember that. Like, we're very, very lucky to be able to do this.
Yeah. It's I remind myself that all the time, especially going deep into those long races, that there's a lot of factors. I'm running for people who can. I'm running inspire others.
Yep.
Running to be able to push myself, but also, like, we don't have to do this. We get to do this.
Yeah, it's a privilege. We are privileged. Yeah, and I like that. We get to do this, and that is a fact.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I really loved about your pack at ATY was you had the picture of Truman on the back.
I take him everywhere. I do. And I had him on my pack this week, and it's just, yeah, it just reminds me, like, I've had a really tough year, like right after he passed away, and it took me until the 1-year anniversary of his death that something clicked in my head, and it's like, why are you reliving the last month of his life over and over again? Because that's what I did. He was declining, and I knew he was, he had less than, they said, a year to live, but he lived 14 months because he had congestive heart failure. But the last month of his life, I did everything I could. I had him on oxygen and all this stuff. And I was just living in those moments of that, really the last like couple of weeks, how he was just like barely could walk and was going in circles, and just that was in my head for a whole year, like just the sadness. It kept coming up, and then finally clicked, and I said to myself, I had 10 years of like this amazing journey with him like running ultras and running up and down peaks with me, and just like, I don't need to be stuck. He doesn't want me to be stuck, and I need to move forward. And I had already gotten my little guy Forrester, and I felt like, you know what, I'm not giving him the right energy, and it's like, I need to now change my focus, and got through that really, really, really hard time for a year, and then got out of the loop. That's what I called it. I was living in a loop. Like every single day I was, just to get out to run, it was like I had no motivation, and it's like I didn't show up to a lot of races because I just didn't want to have to see people and feel the sadness, or it made it easy for me just to stop. Like at Tahoe, I still it hadn't been a year yet, and that was the only thing that stopped me, my sadness. I just got so overwhelmed with grief that I just I couldn't go. It's like that's that's as far as I'm going, 50 miles. I'm not going any, I can't do it. You got to change why you're out here, and I can't run when I'm so depressed like that. So yeah, after that year, it's like, I still miss the heck out of them, but it's like, I got through that. So
Yeah. And I'm
that
so
was
glad,
hard.
so glad.
Yeah.
I remember how hard it was for
Yeah, it was a struggle. I mean, that was like, I still look back, and I guess I had to go through all that to rebuild, and then, and then focus on Forrester, who's just, he's way faster than Truman ever could have been. And I'm so much slower than him, but he's crazy. He doesn't walk anywhere. Like the dog, like across the house. And, he's already up to 17 miles, and he's like 18 months old. So I'm kind of backing him down because he's only 18 months old, and I don't want him to run an ultra until he's like 3, but I definitely know he could do 20 miles. But he was born, though, with what's called luxating patella. So his little kneecap shifts out, and it shows up at 4 months. So it's nothing I did because he wasn't running yet. And I talked to an orthopedic surgeon and my vet, and we're going to do the surgery, but I'm going to wait until they said he can run as much as he wants. It's not affecting him. It's not painful for him right now. But the younger they do this surgery, the more successful and better it will be. But they said he should be living a normal life, if everything goes correctly. And I'm going to wait until like October, after Moab, to get through all that and javelina, and then do the surgery. Because, I don't want him to like have any downtime. I want him to get into the mountains this year too. So last year he was too young to do anything. So now I can take him up Bishop Pass and take him up Paiute Pass and all these fun, cool places. So
that's exciting. I can't wait to see all the pictures.
Yeah.
It's just it's such an obvious joke to make, but like, we were talking about how the people in the sport are getting younger and younger, and now you're telling me that there's somebody out there who's going to be 3 years old and doing a 50K.
And a wiener dog. The dachshund, like, what all people, they're like, we would have never believed it. And I just tell people, because they're like, how can we get our dachshund to run? And I'm like, hey, I'm not a professional on this. I go, you need to, of course, go to your vet and get an x-ray before you start a running program, especially with dachshunds. They are born with a lot of genetic issues from the breeding, and as long as their spine and their hips are good, they're low to the ground when they're running. It's not like they're jumping up on a couch and jumping off of a couch. And even in the mountains, it's not a lot. It's like if it's really steep a climb, I would pick him up. I don't like let him jump off of like high stuff like that. But people are like, oh, you have to carry your dog. And I'm like, I never, like when I had Truman, I'm like, I don't carry him. I just hoist him up on a big rock if it's too high for him to jump up, and I don't want him to get injured. But I'm like, nope. And with Forrester, there's no way. I like when he was a puppy, he'd go in a little pack. There's no way. I haven't seen him get tired yet. And at 17 miles, he hasn't gotten tired. That's why I knew, I'm like, he can go way farther, but dial it back because he has the rest of his life, So I have to remember that. He has many, I probably won't be running by the time he's ready to go. I'll have to hire somebody to run a 50K with him.
Oh, man. It's somehow, I doubt that. You
I
will
know.
still be and going for 500 miles at ATY.
Yeah.
Before we cap off the interview portion and go into the rapid fire food section, one of the things we talked about was getting more women into the sport. And I've had this conversation with people who've done 100s and 200s. And I think I talked to Candace and a few others. And I think the number at some of the 200s for Destination Trails is like 20% of the pack was women. And I firmly, truly, and it doesn't matter if I believe it or not, but I do believe it. The longer the distance gets, the more the women not only equalize it, but they are better than the men.
Oh,
like it.
For sure. I agree with that.
The winner of Tahoe 200 was a female who had.
We're tougher. So it's a mental. You got to remember, it's half running, half mental, and it's like women have been shown to be tougher in the mental, category. We can just keep going, and guys are just suffering. Women know how to suffer better.
Love it, Nancy. That's true and scientifically proven. It doesn't.
Yep.
It have to be scientifically proven. I know for a fact she is way tougher than I am. Shout out to all women, they're way tougher than Um, so what advice would you have to like what do you think is preventing more women from getting into those longer distances? And what advice would you have to encourage women to make that pursuit?
So from my experience and women messaging me, they tend to be afraid to run by themselves, like in mountain situations. In training, obviously, for a 200 miler, all your friends aren't going to be able to train with you, because you got to put in the hours, you got to put in the night runs, you got to do all of that to get you mentally prepared. I mean, there are some people that can just show up and do these things without a lot of prepping, but women tend to get frightened because so they come to me and they ask me, they go, aren't you afraid running at night in the mountains? And I said, absolutely not. I said, you have to be prepared. So carry, an in reach or a spot device if you know you're going to be somewhere with no reception. Have your phone with you and carry pepper spray or a knife. The only time I've ever had any incidents of worrying about anything was twice. Somebody when I was younger, when I was running in the streets in Fremont, I used to run at 4:30 in the morning and tried to get dragged into the bushes twice on different occasions and different times. So, out in the mountains, you don't have that issue, as long as you're prepared. But, get somebody to go with you at night and always maybe have a plan, let people know where you're at. So have that in reach on you or if you have a spot device, like when I go out in the mountains and I have no reception, I do have a mini inReach, but if I'm just going to do this normal, what I call the Sky Marathon, it's a point-to-point 26-mile run, and Phil will just follow me and pick me up at the end, so he knows exactly where I'm at, so he can see if somehow I stopped moving, something's wrong, and get me help if I can't necessarily push the button or whatever. So always give somebody your information so they can follow you. But yeah, just, maybe the first few times go out with somebody, but make a plan to try something that scares you, but just be prepared. And I think that's the main thing from what women who have come to me, they can't get through that running at night by themselves. And even in races, I've had women like, can I run with you through the night? Like in a 200, I'm like, absolutely. Like we like to team up, other people out there. But I get it. I get that it could be scary out there. And they're like, but the mountain lions. And I go, listen, I've seen 15 mountain lions and I've never gotten eaten or attacked. So, they're not after us, in all seriousness. They're very shy and they want to avoid contact with humans. So I consider myself lucky. And a mountain lion expert once told me, because I worked for East Bay Regional Parks volunteering, and he's like, you're lucky. He goes, you're one of the lucky people. He goes, you see them because you're by yourself at the times they're out, and you're not making noise and you startle them, because that's most of the time I'll see them and I'll in the corner of my eye and they look at me and then they run off, so it's and they're not coming towards me, but I get like, okay, they're gone. You just gotta be safe, and you're safer running on a trail away from a lot of people than you are running on the roads. So, and I invite any woman that wants to come out and run in Bishop. I'll take them up in the mountains anytime. Yeah. And teach them how not to be afraid, and teach them how to be prepared, and just taking like a basic first aid class or something like that in case you're in a situation. I mean, I'm sure REI has wilderness outdoor classes that make you feel a bit safer to be prepared. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing I think is women tend to be a little bit more frightened, because we do have to worry about weirdo men, it happens a lot, it's like, I don't like running just down the road, and I live in Bishop, it's very safe, and around here people beep and wave all the time, and that's just because everybody's friendly. When I first moved here, I was like, who is that? Why are they beeping and waving? Because I come from a big city, and unless they're a weirdo, they're not, they're literally saying hi here. So that's just a friendly thing in Bishop. They wave their arm out the window, and I don't necessarily know them. I mean, I know a lot of people now. I mean, we're less than 3,000 people here, so, but, but yeah, I mean, you do have to be careful and, running on the roads, for women. It's just, but you can train on a treadmill too. I've known people that have done a lot of mountain running on a treadmill to train for the 200s. But yeah, you just gotta to get over that fear. I guess the best way to do it is just to get out there and do it. That's all you can do. And once you work through that, because I was the same way. Oh my God, when I first started running, I remember vividly. It was getting to be dusk, and I was on Mission Peak, and I always was off by the time it was getting dark, and I heard all the coyotes, and I'm like, they're going to eat me. I didn't know coyotes are going to attack. You know, I didn't know that. I was just thinking they're going to eat me and I'm going to die. Like, I'm out here and I was crying. I was trying to get away. They weren't even near me, but I just heard them all like in a pack. And I was so afraid. I mean, it was like, I think it took me another long while before I like started running. You know, I started running with friends, and then I'd be out at night and they're like, no, the coyotes, you know, until I learned. I was so young. I didn't know that they weren't going to eat me. I just thought everything was out to get me. It was a scary place being out in the, you know, mountains. But I do really feel safe. Like when I start a run at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, I'm always just like looking around for the animals, make sure I'm in their territory. So I'll usually have my phone with the speaker music going, you know, so they can hear me coming if there's anybody, you know, any mountain lions out. And we actually have one that was spotted on somebody's game camera like 2 blocks away. So he's out here somewhere, or she. So I got to keep the dogs in.
Oh man, that's amazing. And I love all the wild animals. And I think that
I always feel blessed when I see, you know, when I see a wild animal. And living in Bishop, I haven't seen anything. In the Bay Area, I saw more wildlife, which is crazy. Living in Fremont, more wildlife than I have had encounters here in Bishop. Like, I would see coyotes all the time because I lived right up against Mission Peak. So I was like in the mountain and in their territory. But here it's just like, I don't ever see anything. You know, I get happy when I see a herd of deer in my backyard because there's a trail back there, and I'm like, oh, deer, you know.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And I just love all the wild animals, and I just think that if they show up and they come near you, that's a sign that they view you as like they're feeling I believe that they're feeling your connection, because we are all connected.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And when I see something like that now, I think, oh, Truman, you know, like when I get like a sighting of something that I haven't seen, like I just saw a little fox a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, Truman, you know, he ran across the road.
Oh, that's so much. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. And
it's been fun.
Before we jump off this interview, are you ready for the rapid fire food section?
I am. Let's do it.
So we ask you the icebreaker question, and you are team pineapple on pizza, which is
team pineapple. Yep.
I think is amazing, and I'm glad Jason's not here because he would not.
You'll have to let him know. Team pineapple.
But pineapple on your burger, yay or nay?
On my Impossible Burger, I would love pineapple on my burger. Absolutely.
Love that. Apparently that was a widely debated topic too, but I think
pineapple on everything. You know, sweet and savory. Yeah.
Savory. That's exactly.
It's true. I mean, I actually put pineapple on my salads a lot, and I just love it. And pineapple's good for you, good for your digestion.
Okay, breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast?
Breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast? Breakfast for dinner, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a all-day breakfast person
too.
Vegan,
gluten-free waffles.
Sound. Coffee desserts or dessert-flavored coffee?
Coffee dessert or dessert-flavored coffee? Dessert-flavored coffee.
Ooh, yeah, that actually sounds really good. And actually, I think I would do. I hadn't even thought of that one myself. Dessert-flavored coffee.
Well, I have like creamers that, like, I have a cookie something right now, creamer. So that's like a dessert. The creamer that I put in coconut milk.
Are you a cake person or a pie person?
Pie person.
What kind of pie?
Pumpkin pie, vegan, gluten-free, once again. And those are hard to find. And I don't like baking, but my friend Joyce will usually bake me good stuff like that.
I love pumpkin pie. Favorite season of the year?
Favorite season of the year? Summer. I guess Easter season, like around that time when it starts warming up.
Favorite drink in the summer, and I should say non-alcoholic because we don't.
I don't drink alcohol. Yeah, My favorite drink in the summer. Ginger kombucha
Oh, I love
on ice.
Oh man, I love it. I love ginger beer. I mean, I love.
I like ginger beer too. I have those little, what's the name of it? Fever Tree.
Oh yeah, I love Fever
They
Tree.
have little cans and I put them in all my drop bags.
Oh, I gotta do that in my drop bags for the 200s.
Yep.
Always settles me down.
Yep.
Backyard barbecue or 5-course formal dinner? I should say vegan barbecue.
Backyard barbecue. Vegan. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a.
I eat a 5-course dinner. I don't think I've ever eaten that much in my life. 5 courses. Yeah, no.
The 5-course part, and I'm totally a nature mountain person, so I'm not sure I can even do the formal part.
Me neither. I don't want
to. Breakfast in bed or picnic in the park?
Picnic in the park.
What kind of park?
Like a mountain trailhead park.
That's part of why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Dance party or karaoke night?
Dance party.
Ooh.
I'm all about the dance party on the trail.
Any particular kind of dancing on the trail?
I just dance and make little music videos.
Love it.
And I drag my friends into it every time we go out. I'm like, oh, we got to do a dance party on the peak. You know?
Love it. Now, candy. Do you have a favorite candy bar?
No. I would say the Justin peanut butter cups are good. The vegan ones, the dark chocolate ones.
I love Justin's peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
Really good. Do you have a favorite? Do you eat licorice?
No, because it's not gluten-free. It has wheat in it.
Didn't know that.
You have to find one that doesn't have it in it. I know, isn't that weird? I've never found one that doesn't have that in there.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah. You look at a red licorice and it says wheat.
Yeah, I don't know why is probably what I would say to like half the foods where I'm like, why is this thing in here?
I know.
Last question. Giant submarine sandwich or tacos the size of your head?
Well, I don't eat bread. And I couldn't eat a taco the size of my head. But I would prefer a taco, a vegan taco.
Okay, last question. I know you're vegan now, but I have to ask, do you view hot dogs as a taco or a sandwich?
A sandwich.
It's funny. I think we've had one person say taco, but I think that they are a sandwich.
Because they're in a bun. Sandwich.
Licorice.com, I think, has gluten-free option.
Okay. Licorice.com. Okay, I'm going to look that up when I'm done. I was just looking for a pen. I will look that up.
Well, awesome. Well, Catra, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to connect.
Make fun of that the whole way, and we forgot about it till the end. But yeah, guys, it happened.
It happens, whatever. But as long as we got to chat. And thanks for everybody just jumping on here too. Appreciate everybody.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for jumping on, and that was just a great conversation. And yeah, just gotta have fun with it, and we had a good time. So
yeah, and if anybody has any questions, they can jump on Instagram and DM me. If any women out there have questions about running and whatever, I'm here for all the sisters and the brothers too, and the trail brothers too.
Trail brothers and sisters. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Okay. Thank you so much, you guys. Bye.